Hello everyone, I wanted to do a quick update on Iran, but first I want to point out this strange apology from ISIS. And who are they apologizing to? Israel. I thought ISIS hated the Jews. I thought they absolutely hated Israel, right? Of course not, because ISIS is a tool of the Israeli and American intelligence agencies, which if you go deep enough, they are one and the same. So yes, it is a scam. Israel is your biggest enemy. So according to the Times of Israel, there was a clash that took place near the Syrian border in the Golan Heights Israeli-occupied area of Syria, in which IDF troops engaged in fire with members of the Islamic State. They probably began the fire. After a brief gun battle, the Israeli military attacked the terrorist group with airstrikes and tank fire, killing 4 of them. Then they turn around and apologize to the poor oppressed IDF soldiers, because they're Jewish, and they're always oppressed. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's always been obvious that ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever the hell you want to call it, has always been a tool of Israeli intelligence agencies. Why? First off, they need perpetual war to feed the Zionist military-industrial complex. Secondly, they never would have been able to enact their hit list. They never would have been able to destabilize the countries that they felt were a threat to the Rothschild state of Israel. Create ISIS, easy way to destabilize, easy way to go to war. You achieve the Greater Israel Project. Here's an awesome quote from none other than Assad himself, and it just fits in perfectly with what I'm talking about here. Quote, "You can assume in any case that these terrorists are fighting for Israel. Even if they're not a regular Israeli army, they are still fighting for Israel. And Israel shares objectives with Turkey, the United States, France, Britain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other states." This is part of the quote, but as we all know, those are puppet states of the Rothschild state of Israel. Alright, finishing the quote. "They all share the same objective." Assad said that to a Croatian newspaper. He also added, "Israel is doing its best to support these terrorists in every place the Syrian army advances. They attack in one way or another in order to provide support to the terrorists, and in order to stall the momentum of the Syrian Arab army in facing them." Yup, that's very accurate, I would say. So continuing quotes from Assad, we don't typically get to hear much of what he has to say because he's such a tyrant and all, he's too busy killing his own people. But, quote, "They do not fight it," meaning terrorism. "The fact of the matter is they use terrorism as a card to achieve different political agendas. Even when terrorism backfires and claims victims in their own countries. But they do not acknowledge this fact." He is spot on here. This is exactly why terrorism was created. Another quote, "Europe, or a number of European countries, support terrorists on a large scale. Send to Syria tens of thousands of terrorists, or support them directly and indirectly, logistically with arms, money, political cover, and everything." Also very true. Alright, so on to the Iran update. Mad Dog Mattis just recently visited Israel to talk about Iran, to discuss how they're going to deal with the quote-unquote threat of Iran. It's not like Israel doesn't have 200 nuclear warheads pointed at Iran at all times. What they really need to figure out is how to take them out to finish their hit list. So, Mad Dog went to Tel Aviv. The top of the list was Iran, and they were also discussing how they can defeat the extremist terrorist organizations, ironically. Funny how that works. So, they're always crying about Iran. Iran is the biggest threat. Iran sponsors terrorism. No. You sponsor terrorism. You create terrorism. Iran is trying to stay out of the global banking system. They don't want to be enslaved. They don't want to live in a shitty Western society. Mad Dog is quoted as saying, "Everywhere you look, if there is trouble in the region, you find Iran." I feel everywhere there's trouble, you find Israel. That's just me, though. As I said, Iran will be bombed at some point. We have to look out for this. I really don't want them to be able to do this. Hopefully we can stop it from happening. Please share, and you guys have a good one.